Hey, this is Tyler with Survival Dispatch. What do you really need to stack up on? We're going to talk to you about that today, so stick with me. Prepping. When it comes to prepping, people have a tendency to gather stuff they don't need, which is always a bit crazy to me. Now, I'm not going to shame you if you grab a bunch of toilet paper, and having a bunch of toilet paper might be something valuable, something that you can trade for. I watched this Corona toilet paper rush and I thought it was hilarious. You can buy a bidet, you can attach it to your toilet. You can then turn around and get a large water tank that you're gonna have to have anyway for water and use that to deal with your toiletry needs. Some people are buying these things and using them permanently because they like them more. So this is one thing you actually don't need to hoard a bunch of. Fire is extremely important. Fire you need to boil water, to cook things, to decontaminate water if all you can do is boil it, to heat yourself. Fire is extremely important. So there's no reason why you can't have bags and bags of Bics. They are so cheap you can have them in volume. But even a large stockpile of Bics can run out. So it's good to have a secondary option. We've got a Sophos fire steel right here, ferrocerium. This is also magnesium and ferrorod. These also will last a big duration of time, but it takes a little bit of skill set in generating the proper kind of tinder for you to be able to use those. So buy a bunch of Bics and then have some sort of ferro steel or even friction fire as your backup. If you're constantly doing friction fire because you can and you're not in a hurried situation, that just saves your stack of Bic lighters. If you don't want to do friction fire, buy a bunch of Bics, have some ferro rods, have boxes of matches, whatever it is that you choose to use, have it in a large volume, because this may be the last fire starter that you get to use, and it may be a barter item that you end up trading in exchange for something else. Back before we all had cell phones with lights in them, one of the main things that I always suggested people prep, especially when they're in earthquake-prone areas, are lights. If it's the middle of the day and the building comes down around you, there's no lights, and it's really handy to always have something in your pocket that you're going to EDC. Because most phones can do that now, I just talk about it when I teach classes, but when it comes to long-term, you're prepping because of a grid down situation or some sort of survival scenario, you need the ability to replenish that electricity, and solar is one of the best answers for that. Lights are something you'll need on a regular basis, especially we don't really realize how much we use lights during the course of the day and until you turn your lights off or realize how early it gets dark in the winter. If you have a bunch of lights, I see a lot of people that will stock up on batteries, but after I went to Afghanistan and realized how fast and in what large amount of volume we go through batteries, I become a big fan of stuff that's rechargeable. So if you have solar systems that are recharging batteries during the day, then you can use those batteries at nighttime and you can use them again and again and again. It's more cost effective, it's going to save you a bunch of money, and it's going to create less refuge or less garbage. So have lights. I prefer headlamps because they're easier to use than the handheld flashlights. They free your hands up to work on mechanics, to fix things, to run a pistol, whatever it is you're going to do, and then have solar backup. Whatever you think you need when it comes to solar, triple that. Solar has a tendency to not always charge up as fast as we need, especially in the winter, especially in areas where there's a lot of foliage. So whatever you got, just triple that. I'll see a lot of videos that talk about hoarding things and they don't mention bullets and food. I don't know why you wouldn't have a large stockpile of both. So let's talk about food. When it comes to food, you've got to get something you're going to want to eat. Peak has not sponsored me, but I grabbed these Peak fuel packages because this is what I personally buy when I go out and do stuff in the backcountry. I love that it has a cereal. It's great for me. It's a little more expensive, but it is tasty. I'm not gonna get sick of eating this food after a big duration of time. Also, when it rehydrates, because this is freeze-dried, it doesn't have super hard, chunky stuff that doesn't rehydrate. You can actually still eat it. So get something in volume that you can eat 2 or 3 meals a day, because you're going to eat more in a grid down situation than you will normally because you'll be working, and make sure that it tastes good. So there's my tasty option, and there's also bulk options. We've got these emergency food supply from Mountain House, and again, I don't care what brand you get. I care that you taste it before you stockpile it, and you know that you're actually going to want to eat it when it comes time to eat it. Water is something that you can't get like energy from the sun. It's not something that you can grow. It's something you either got to stock up on, or you have to have a local source that you can draw from that you know is going to be clean enough to drink, or you have to have the ability to clean it. When it comes to stockpiling water, there's a lot of ways to do it. One of my favorite ways is to have a large Rockwell Oasis container like this. We've got 270 gallons, 170 gallons, 70 gallons. And the way that I like to tell people to do this is have one massive one that stays in your house, and then have a couple of small ones that you can grab and go. I like the Scepter cans and military cans. They're really robust but really expensive. These cans are a little less robust, but I can put them in the back of a car and go. So when it comes to water, make sure you have at least 1 gallon per person per day for the duration of time that you think you can go without water, and have a plan to grab a little bit of water and go somewhere else if you need to bug out, or a way to pack that water in, purify it, and resupply your existing tank. Cordage. Cordage is this amazing thing that can be used to fix all sorts of stuff, from shoelaces to hanging stuff up to tying up game that you've shot to skin it. It's just really, really valuable to have. It's really good to have a big pile of 550 cord. You can buy it in bulk, fairly cheap. It's big enough that it can handle a lot of weight, and small enough that you're not going to put 100 feet in this small space and run out of space. So 550 cord tends to be kind of a magical answer when it comes to stocking up on cordage. Items like duct tape and super glue are super valuable. There's that old adage, if WD-40 and duct tape can't fix it, it wasn't broken. So having said that, have duct tape, have electrical tape. This is valuable when it comes to fixing electrical problems, mechanical problems, and duct tape is a phenomenal fire starter as well. So stock up on a bunch of duct tape. Medical is extremely important to have. Can't have enough band-aids, can't have enough medicine for the ailments that you already know that you have or that you think you might have, and just can't have enough medical when it comes to stockpiling. These are some small examples of some quick medical kits. They're set up in bags. So we have like wound stopping bags, blood stopping bags, medication bags, band-aid bags, cleaning bags, and then glove bags. So that way you can kind of grab the one kit in the beginning, put all your gloves on, deal with the little kid finger cuts from the band-aids, deal with sores and so forth, deal with cleaning, immediately grab the blood clotting bag to stop blood clots, and then wrap it up from there. When it comes to medical, having a huge amount of medical, a large amount that you can just put away until you need it, is really important. It's also important to keep it out of the sunlight and the heat, because your medical stuff like band-aids will age with time and degrade. Medication can age, but make sure that you stock up on enough medical that you can last through a traumatic event with the kit that you have on hand. One of the best solutions when it comes to grid down is just falling back to the 1800s. What I mean by that is this: your ancestors only a generation or two ago went without ice and refrigeration and heating, and well, they had heating in the form of fire, AC, they didn't have that, and electricity. So having said that, you can revert back to the technology that they worked with at that time and really fulfill a majority of your daily needs. Candles are amazing. I like candles. You can buy them in bulk. They're not expensive, and you can make them out of fat. All you need is a piece of string and some fat and a wick. Your string is your wick. You'll dip the fat in. You can have bacon fat. You can have whatever you want. Dip that wick in it, let it dry, dip it again, let it dry. That's how you make the old candles. Or just stock up on cheap candles right now and put them with the rest of your prepper supplies. The way a majority of houses used to be lit is with kerosene. They essentially had a wick that went inside of kerosene, and then it evaporated up the wick and burnt. So that's how this little device right here works. It's a 100-hour plus candle. I've used these during power outages. They're good to cook small amounts of food, and they're great to get fire started. So that's another idea to use, is to rely on the 1800s technology and have candles, kerosene lamps, and those types of items. Shelter is extremely important, and it comes in many different variations. It can be everything from the food that you eat that makes you warm, to the clothes that you're wearing, to your vehicle, to a full-on tent like this. Whatever your plan for shelter is, have a plan for shelter. If you have a tent like this, you can set it up inside of your existing house. If the power goes out, now you've got a microenvironment. Or you can set it up in your backyard, start a fire in the stove, and live in the backyard for a while. This is extremely beneficial if you have something like an earthquake that's destroyed local infrastructure and knocks stuff down. So make sure you have some kind of a plan for shelter that includes clothing, sleeping bags, and some sort of an external shelter like a tent that'll last through all of the seasons and weather conditions in your local environment. It would be wrong of me to not mention bullets. We have this saying in the military, beans and bullets. You gotta eat and you gotta feed the machine. I'm not saying this because I think you're gonna be battling your neighbors, but I also think that ammunition is one of the best ways to come up with food sources. It's really hard to run down the neighbor's cat if you don't have a way to catch it with a really fast rock. Ammunition is important for a multitude of reasons, self-defense being one of them, food being the other. Make sure that you have enough that you can stockpile to the extent that you can trade it if you need some other item that you don't have. Tools are the next category I'm going to talk about. The problem with that is they're kind of dependent upon you specifically. So I have just an assortment of tools to kind of remind you of some of the things you might need. Any tools that you can use to fix vehicles, small devices, maybe a sight on a rifle, tools for building things, and maybe stockpile a little bit of lumber, shovels, knives. I'm always a fan of a good knife. So make sure that when you're prepping or having stockpiles of things, that tools and the ability to build stuff with your tools is part of that planning process. Communication is important because you're going to want to talk to your neighbors. You're going to want to be able to talk to people maybe in an outlying area in your homestead if you have one. Make sure you've got a way to communicate, whether that's cell phones that can run on Wi-Fi only, a power supply to keep them running. Sat phones might work in most emergencies, or the always reliable fail-safe of some kind of a radio of some sort. Make sure that you've got the communications device and the way to keep that thing powered indefinitely, and you'll be good to go. All right, guys, I hope this is valuable to you and it gets your ideas and wheels spinning. Remember, prepping can be overwhelming. You don't have to eat the elephant all at one time. You can eat it one bite at a time. Thank you to Isaiah from Sophos. He owns a store here in Spanish Fork. You want to tell him about your store?
Yeah, just we focus on emergency preparedness, survival, outdoor gear. Another big thing is education. So we teach classes, and you've got all this gear and all this stuff we've been talking about in this video, but knowledge, training, practice, those are some of the things that we like to focus on, because without that, the gear sometimes doesn't matter.
Yeah, if you can't make tinder, what good is a lighter? So if you're in Utah, go to Spanish Fork, come check the store out, check out his website, spell it for me, SOPH?
SOPHOS, and then survival, SURVIVAL.com. Also check out survivaldispatch.com. We've got our website up and running. And if you haven't already, you need to go install Rumble and subscribe to our channel there, Survival Dispatch. And he's also got a YouTube channel. Yep, Sophos Survival.
Fairly easy, just makes it all the same name. All right, guys. If you've got questions, leave them down below, and thank you for watching. Hey, this is Tyler with Survival Dispatch. What do you really need to stock up on? Hey, this is Tyler with Survival Dispatch. What do you really